Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Richie Spots. I know it's been a while since I've done an episode of this series, and I know it's kind of also been a hot minute since the last time I've done any piece of content, whatever it's, video, stream, etc., etc. So the reason being is because I've just been busy I've just been busy with university. I've been busy just trying to find a job. Which, granted, you would think, oh, with all this free time, you just might be doing this often. But I just have other stuff in life to take care of. And one of the last few streams I did, I think was like what a few months ago. I think it was like before July. I think that was like the last stream I ever did. Um, yeah, I just been busy with other things. So for those of you wondering, that's pretty much what it's been. So nothing really special to say, unfortunately. for those that are looking like, for those that are looking for like a big reason. But no, I pretty much just was am busy with other things at the moment, and still am. But I will try to make better time to do more content, whether it's for videos like this, um, or it's whatever it's for streaming and stuff like that. So no, I have not. I have not stopped content creation. I don't plan on stopping content creation. I've just been busy with all these other things, and I've decided to put like my time and focus into it just to make sure that those things are taken care of, considering where I'm at in a lot of those things. Because along with the fact that finding a job is also like pretty important, because as we all know, even if you're watching this from like a different country, uh, that's not America, that it's all about like finding a job, a good paying job that you know you earn enough money to help pay your bills, and also have somewhat decent amount of money to get the things that you want but not necessarily need at times, because you want to take care of your bills, but sometimes you need to take care of your bills, I should say. But then there are some things that you want, but you want to take care of your bills first, because those are the needs. So, but anyways, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's very pretty much it. Again, like I said, no big special shocking reason why I stopped doing this for a bit, like per usual. It's just I've been busy. I just been busy. That's all there is to it, for the most part, because it's been school, trying to find a job, and just um, been obviously using my time a lot more to be hanging out with friends and stuff like that. Just enjoying life while I can, because the world's a crazy the world's a crazy place sometimes. So that's all I can really say to that. But yeah, on today's episode, we'll be talking about a few topics. I do want to talk about Crash Bandicoot for a little bit, and nothing in particular happened for Crash Bandicoot. I just want to like talk about like, well, actually, there is enough enough of you guys on Poly's stream within the last few days, or at this point a week ago, I should say, were asking me a few times about how I felt about the whole Crash Bandicoot 5 cancellation subject, and also a few of you were also asking me that on Terrell's stream, aka the Insane Game Freak. So I figured, what the fuck, I might as well do a Richie Spots on it. And it's not just Crash Bandicoot we'll be talking about. I'll kind of give my opinions about Rayman. Now that one, there's really nothing going on for Rayman. I just want to, give my 2 cents on like the inability of Ubisoft to do anything with this franchise, which I think is mentally ill. Um, and then lastly, um, we'll be talking about Toy Story 5, which I hate. I dread the fact that I even have to talk about it, but it's like the thing that won't die. So you have to like go directly to the heart and kill it with a wooden stake. um, but no, anyways, that's pretty. So those are the topics we'll be talking about today. So let's get started with actually Rayman, mainly because there's not really gonna be a whole much I can say about that, but I just want to like go ahead and rant about this for a bit. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So the thing about Rayman that I wanted to start off with is that I'm just like disappointed with like, and I've said this before many times on Twitter. I've said this many times on my streams, and I've even said this on other friends' streams. Whenever the topic is, I'm so sorry. Whenever this topic gets brought up by me or somebody Twitch chat, and etc. etc. Um, it's just disappointing to see because you see some of these other similar platformer mascots come back in some capacities. I mean, hell, you have fucking Bubsy with like his own remastered game or whatever it was. I think within the last 3 years or so. You see like some other ones. I think Shovel Knight's had something within the last 3 years or something like that, or something within the recent modern times. And then all these other guys, right? So the thing I wonder for Rayman is that Ubisoft knows and they understand. I would like to think they know and they understand that there's a decent demand, a good enough demand for them to be like, yeah, we should probably make a Rayman game, guys. We should probably make a new one. But it seems like there's no willpower to even do that. Like, to me, that's the disappointing thing is that Rayman's involvement in Sparks of Hope literally proves the idea that people get excited for Rayman. They want to play this because of Rayman. I mean, granted, a lot of people are going to be playing Sparks of Hope anyway because A, it's Mario, and two, excuse me, sorry. I guess I should be doing an episode when I just am waking up. But people are going to be playing Sparks of Hope a lot anyway because, like I was just saying, it's a Mario game, so people are going to be obviously flocking to play that. It's a unique game style as well. The rabbits are also evolved, and there's a decent amount of people that are fans of the rabbits. So when you put Rayman into the mixture of things, you would think that, oh, well, maybe not a whole lot of people might be interested just because it's Rayman. But did you guys see like the amount of reactions that Rayman's involvement when he was first announced for that mini trailer or reveal trailer of them just be like, oh yeah, by the way, we're putting Rayman in this DLC. It's like people were excited. They were genuinely excited. And it was enough people too. And I've seen a lot of people, not just Rayman fans, but I've seen a lot of people on social media that specifically bought this DLC as well because they want to not only play it but also have the chance to play fucking Rayman. And I think the DLC did a great job, like I've said before, in like a past episode, because I think I talked about the DLC on a non-spoiler on a non-spoiler basis. I just thought that the gameplay was excellent, and I thought the way that they handled Rayman's mechanics, they stayed super faithful to that. So with that, it makes it very easy for people to get into him because they know that's what they're going to get. Because whatever you're getting from Rayman in his games, you're going to get here in this one in the basis of his role. So yeah, there was definitely like a lot of people that were interested to playing this DLC for the most part because it's Rayman, because Rayman's pretty much the main star of like this DLC. And it's just it to me that makes my heart happy. That makes my soul in peace. But what doesn't make my soul feel in peace is the fact that there's this reception for Rayman that's been clear, that's been known, and that's been wide open as far as like the amount of Rayman fans, the amount of people that are just like, yeah, we like to see Rayman get like his own, get his own video game again, in the style of which we fell in love with. which I don't think there's like a definitive. I don't think there's a definitive one that people will settle. I mean, people will maybe go with the recent style of Origins and Legends, which is basically just a 2D side scroller, but it's very detailed. The environments are beautiful. But to me personally, if I had to choose, I definitely would like to see Rayman go back to the style of Rayman 2 and 3, where it was like a 3D platformer. The environments were not necessarily detailed, but they were colorful. They were they looked like, I mean, obviously Rayman 3D environments are also beautiful, but I think UB Art's style is actually very, very detailed because there's a lot more emphasis on the art and the presentation. So I'm not going to say that the 3D platforming art environment for the Rayman games, which is basically 2 and 3, I'm not going to say that those are inferior by any means. But I think UB Art does a much better job in terms of presentation, because there's a lot more, like I said, a lot more emphasis on the art presentation. But yeah, me personally, like I basically saying, I would definitely like to see them preferably go back to the style of Rayman 2, Rayman 3, 3D platformer. I would say it's more of a balanced approach in terms of like the art style, the presentation, the details of it. It appears a little bit more colorful in the 3D standard, and being able to explore a more, how do I say this, semi-open world style. So something like Rayman 2 Revolution, which was basically a Rayman 2 port for the PlayStation 2. I know some people may not necessarily like that style for Rayman, but me personally, considering how big, considering how unique Rayman's world is, I think I think that will be better overall, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, anyways, back to the main point. So it's just disappointing that Ubisoft is just not doing anything with Rayman. Like I just don't get, like, is there's like is there like some sort of thing where they just feel like, yeah, if we do something for Rayman, we're not going to get like a nice return on our investment or whatever. But to me, I don't like that logic, because they know that the audience is there, and they should know better. And honestly, this goes for mostly any other video game company, really. But they should know better not to have like super lofty, which I feel like I'm going to say a lot more when we get to the Crash Bandicoot topic. But they should know better not to get these lofty, heavy expectations that, oh, Rayman's gonna sell like fucking 50 million copies. It's like, no, you have to start somewhere reasonable, with the fact that there's enough demand from the people that want a Rayman game. But that doesn't mean, oh, let's put the heaviest expectations on this, and if it fails, we can then justify ourselves as saying, see, we didn't need to do a Rayman game because it didn't even meet our heavy, our heavy tower expectations, which, I think that is completely disingenuous. But like I said, I'll get further more into that once we get to the Crash Bandicoot topic, because it just boils my blood just thinking about it. But yeah, as far as Rayman's concerned, like I just mentioned, I'm not sure what Ubisoft's deal was. They literally just have done nothing. They've literally just done nothing. And I think the most that they've ever done was just social media acknowledgments, but they don't even do a good enough job of that at times. I specifically remember, what was it, the 25th anniversary? I think it's the 25th anniversary, because I know the 30th anniversary is next year. Yeah, the 30th anniversary is next year for the Rayman franchise. But I know for the 25th anniversary, if I remember correctly, we didn't get anything for the 25th anniversary. No remastered game collection, no like something. Because you know how like mostly other video game franchises get like something to commemorate, or commemorate their their anniversary just to show that, hey, we've been doing this for so many years. Here's something that we're going to do for the fans to help celebrate the franchise. I mean, there's like some anniversaries where Mega Man got stuff. There's and this goes without saying, but there were definitely anniversaries where the Mario franchise got stuff, Sonic got stuff. I know Crash Bandicoot had like a dodgy, was it 25th anniversary where there were supposed to be things, but then that never really happened until like a year or two later. But you could tell that there was definitely at least something being worked on during that time, which, like I just said, it took like a year or two for that to come out. Um, but um, but yeah, those are just examples of some other franchises that have at least. I know it might be kind of a tall order to compare that to Rayman, but Rayman still it's still, how do I say this? Rayman is still a 3D platformer character, which is why I'm putting him in that same kind of island with the others, because it's still like the same expectation that with a big anniversary, especially with it being like 5th, 10th, 15th, 20th, 25th, 30th, it's like you should be able to do something for your franchise for like that big anniversary. But with Rayman, with the 25th anniversary, they did jack shit. Now, I know I mentioned before about like the social media mentions or posts, and people are going to be like, see, they at least did something for that. And it's like, guys, you do realize putting out a fucking tweet on one of their Ubisoft pages, whether it's for like the main official page that everybody knows, or one of the branches of Ubisoft says it, like, I don't know, Ubisoft Montpellier or Ubisoft Singapore or whatever branch it is. You guys do realize that's the bare minimum that Ubisoft can do, because it doesn't take that much effort. It doesn't take that much time just to simply type out a fucking tweet and swap an image from the internet, or if you have a nice image somewhere in the archives, it doesn't take that much just to put like a social media post and just say, hey, we really miss Rayman. We like the franchise, something like that, or some other generic shit that any video game company will say about their video game character during the 25th, or not just 25th, but anniversaries in general, right? Or just whenever they decide to repost fan art that people submit to the company, and then they're like, hey, check out this person who made this nice art of Rayman. We certainly love this video game franchise just as much as you do. It's like, guys, like I said before, that's the bare minimum effort that they can do. And even then, I'm not impressed. Or it's not that I'm not impressed, but I expect more. I expect them to do more at this point, because, like I said, there's a good enough demand based on what I've seen from the Twitter audience, Facebook audience. I think it's a little bit more prevalent on Twitter, but I'm surprised that Facebook's actually kind of got a little bit of an outspoken fan base when it comes to Rayman. And I'm not sure about like other sites like Instagram, Snapchat. I would think that maybe I would think Instagram is kind of, what is it, okay-ish, decent. Again, I can't really say for sure, so I'm not going to really try and speculate too much. So yeah, it's just disappointing. Now, there's a lot of, once again, hope, and it's the thing that Rayman fans, such as myself and others, it's a thing that we always get ourselves into, and this is how I felt with Crash Bandicoot for years, up until like Insane Trilogy was revealed at E3 2016. The thing that we always get ourselves into with Rayman is that we would always think, oh, well, we didn't get anything this year, sure, we will get something next year. And then the next year comes, nothing happens. We see the same shit about hoping for something next year or within the next few months, whatever. The cycle continues, rinse and repeat. So I think there's like a little bit of hope that maybe in the 30th anniversary, 30th anniversary. Actually, I am surprised that it's actually 30 years of Rayman. Really? Am I actually? Hold on. Let me make sure I got that right. Hold on. Rayman 30th anniversary. Oh yeah, it is 30. It is the 30th anniversary. That's kind of crazy to think about, that it's been 30 years of fucking Rayman. Because let's think about it, right? Um, Rayman came out. Let me take a look. Rayman 1. Yeah, no, Rayman came out in 1995. So 2005 was his 10th year anniversary. Yeah, so that's 2005. 2015 was his 20th anniversary. So yeah, 1995, 2005 is his 10th. 2015 is his 20th. 2020, I think was his oh wow, I got the fucking scatterbrain because I should know this. Okay, so let's start this again. I'm sure I'll get this right this time. 1995 was the start, obviously, because that's when it came out. 2005 was his 10th. 2015 was his 20th. Yeah, so 25th would be 2020. So then 2025 would be his 30th. So, but yeah, anyways, let's get on track. Now that I got that right, I'm sure I'll get fucking roasted in the comments for this. So there's this hope that maybe just because it's the next big number, which is the 30th anniversary, there's this hope that maybe they might do something. Am I hopeful for that? Honestly, no. Because I just refuse to see how this company will do anything for this franchise. Which is, like I said, weird because you would think they do something for them. But no. We're not getting that at all whatsoever. But if it does happen, though, and it will make it twice as more exciting because you're not going to expect that from Ubisoft. So even though I'm saying that, hey, we're probably not going to get anything, and they're probably not even going to attempt to do anything for his 30th anniversary, I will still hold out a decent amount of hope that maybe they might do something. Even if they do something like a remastered collection where they just put like the fucking first 3 games out on the Switch, update the graphics a bit, make it look good. Maybe it could be done in like a same fashion as, ironically, as we see on my nice, beautiful TV screen. Maybe in the same style as Crash Bandicoot and Insane Trilogy, where it's like you rebuild it from the ground up for each of those first 3 games. And by the first 3 games, I'm referring to Rayman 1, 2, and 3, where you put them all in the video game collection. And obviously, as we know, Rayman 1 was a 2D side scroller, and then the last 2 games are a 3D platformer. So, you just rebuild those graphics from the ground up. You take like a year or 2 or however long it takes to do it. And then you release the game and then just say, hey, we may not be able to release it in the 30th year anniversary, but we're going to announce this project for you guys because a lot of you have been asking for it. And that's the thing, because people sometimes will always ask you, what would you do if you were Ubisoft for the 30th anniversary of like this video game franchise? That's the thing I would do. I would re-release the first 3 games from the ground up. Like I said, in the same style as Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, where you rebuild it from the ground up and you put them as a video game collection. You release it together under 1 game. You see what the general reception is. I would say a good sales expectation is between 5 to 10 million. And if that game, if that game gets like that much, how long it takes, which is probably going to take like a few years or so, then you see the reception for that, and you're just like, okay, enough people want to see Rayman, right? So they, then you go do more with the franchise. You give it another sequel. You keep it going. You start getting more. You start getting more things going for that franchise that it deserves. Now I know people mentioned the board game, which I am excited for the board game. I think that's also nice that they're getting it, even though I think Ubisoft themselves kind of barely acknowledge it, which doesn't really surprise me. So it's like, so yeah, that's what I would do. That's what I would do if I was in charge, and that's what I would want Ubisoft to do. And even if they do something like where they do the bare minimum and just release ports of the game onto the Nintendo Switch Online, whether it's like Rayman 2's N64 port for Nintendo Switch Online, or yeah, just something like that. Like even if they do that, that would be that. Even though that would be again minimal effort, that minimal effort though would be one of the few examples that they can do that would be better than doing absolutely fucking nothing, nothing at all. But to me, preferably, I would want for them to do what I mentioned, which is you follow the Crash Bandicoot route and just re-release your first three games from the ground up, put them together as a video game collection, um, or trilogy game, whatever. You release it, you see the reception for a little bit, and if the reception is positive and it's trending good, you then get started on the sequel. You get started on Rayman 4. Now, of course, some people are going to say, oh, well, Rayman Origins is Rayman 4. It's like, I mean, I guess we can call it Rayman 4, but people, when I say Rayman 4, Rayman fans know exactly what I mean when I say Rayman 4. I'm not asking for the exact prototype to be reworked and re-released as like an official game. Or actually, if that actually does happen, that actually would be pretty cool. But I do expect Rayman 4 to actually be a thing once the franchise actually gets the love and respect it deserves. Once you do this route, like I just mentioned a second ago, with the video game collection from the ground up, and then you see what happens afterwards. Then you go with the fourth game that us Rayman fans have been waiting for years. Which actually I think it's been like what 28 years, not 28 years, 18 years since we've been waiting for that. Because I think it was supposed to come out in 2006 or 2007. Yeah, 2006 actually. The original Rayman Raving Rabbids, but then we never got that because it was reworked into a full-on party game. So let me think about this. So 2006, 2016 is 10 years. If in 2026 would be the 20th. So right now we're in the 18th year since that's happened. So I think that would be pretty cool. That would be a way to really get the fans what they want, but also go back to something that already exists for you, but you just rework it a bit and then release it as a new game. I don't see how, with the talent and direction of some of these video game developer teams, how that can't be done. So, but yeah, I think we spoke enough of Rayman for a bit. But yeah, that's pretty much my feelings and thoughts about the franchise. I love the Rayman franchise. I think it's great. I definitely have a lot of appreciation for it as one of my favorite video game franchises of all time. Now, Crash Bandicoot is higher than Rayman on my list, but the gap, in all honesty, is not really that big because they're both, in my opinion, they're both equally fun to play. They both equally give me a lot of joy to play those franchises. And I've always had a good time playing the games. And that's why I'm replaying that's why I am also in the process of replaying the games on my Twitch stream, which once I get back into that, we will resume Rayman 1, then we'll do Rayman 2, Rayman 3, and we'll honestly do Rayman Raving Rabbids because funny enough, that game is on Steam, so we can definitely show that to you guys. What was I gonna say? But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as that's concerned. But yeah, again, that's what I would do as far as the Rayman franchise. If I was in charge for next year's anniversary, you would just re-release you would just announce like a video game collection from the ground up to release, and then you would also give like an announcement of a new game that will come out within the next few years or so. That's what I would do. That's what I would do, and I guarantee you, enough reception and enough audience following is going to be there. I put good money on that. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it as far as Rayman. So let's go on actually to the next topic, which is Crash Bandicoot. Because like I mentioned before, enough of you guys in various Twitch chats have asked me, Richie, what do you think? Or R497, I guess I should say, but Richie, I guess in this case works. Richie, what do you think about the Crash Bandicoot 5 cancellation? And I think I answered it kind of vaguely or didn't say much for whenever I was getting those questions in those other chats and the other streams I was in. Because I think at the time when a lot of you guys were asking me, I think I was starting to like read more into it, and I just didn't really have like an official response because it's like, well, I can't really respond to something I'm not really too familiar with. Um, but now that I've read a bit more of it, I think I'm at I think I'm at a point where I could give like a good solid opinion about I could give like a good solid opinion about how I feel about that whole debacle with with Crash Bandicoot 5, which I know kind of shocked people a bit because it's like what the fuck. It's like what the fuck, this happened really. um so yeah, for those that don't know, there is a video by Did You Know Gaming, the Did You Know Gaming channel, and that's as much as I'll say. um they talked about like they canceled Crash Bandicoot 5, which happened around the time of, what was it, late 2020, early 2021, somewhere around there. So basically, this was right after this was right after this was right after Crash Bandicoot 4. So this wasn't something that, oh, they were already working on prior to Crash Bandicoot 4 coming out. No, this is something that happened after the fact, like it was like after release of Crash Bandicoot 4. Though I do have to imagine that with the way that video game developing works, I would have to, you know, I would have to imagine, right, that they had to at least conceptualize it and they must have had already thought about it in their heads and started working on it kind of a bit in terms of creating the arts and making like the design document and whatever the case may be. I had to imagine that that was worked on even before Crash Bandicoot 4 came out, because I doubt that this was something that they did in 2 days or a few days after It's About Time came out. So I doubt that much. But basically, to get to the meat and potatoes of the topic. So Crash Bandicoot 5, like I said, was canceled, and the game was obviously going to be set as a direct sequel to Crash Bandicoot 4. That comes as no surprise. Um, so the way it was talked about was like was two concepts. I know the video kind of explained it as one, but to me, the way I look at it and the way that it kind of looks like, instead of it, it's one of those cases where they say it's one game, but in reality, they also say these were concepts for the game. So it could have been like, oh, they could have gone with this concept for the fifth game, or they could have gone with the other. So I'll explain this as different concepts, but they all might have just been like the same game. But honestly, with the way that this is looking, I think it was like this was 110%, in my opinion, two different concepts. But anyways, there were concept art and story drafts that came out. Came out, but more so talked about in the video. There were concept art and story drafts that revealed that the sequel was going to revisit. Well, this is for one of the ideas. That the sequel was going to revisit the Academy of Evil. And for those of you that don't know, Academy of Evil was a setting or a place that was in Crash Twinsanity, where we went to the Academy at some point to go bail out Cortex's niece, who is Nina. So we played like a few levels here and there. We went down below to the boiler room. We went around the school campus. We went around the halls. We did some badass shit on the rooftop. We got chased by a school bus. That Crash couldn't drive for shit through the air balloon. Yeah, that whole environment was fun. That was great. I enjoyed playing it on stream. But anyways, but yeah, so the sequel, one of the ideas of the sequel was that they were going to revisit the Academy of Evil, that, like I said, was from Crash Twinsanity, and it would have featured a number of returning villains. Yeah, the number of returning villains such as Embryo, and other which were presented in the concept arts. Which, if you guys look up Crash Bandicoot 5, you'll see the same exact art. But there are other ones such as Doctor Cortex, which goes without saying. But other villains such as Pinstripe, Portaru, and then Tiny the Tiger, just to name like a few that we've seen publicly. Um, and the other concept, which was the more ambitious one, was the fact of Crash Bandicoot crossing over with Spyro the Dragon, which according to the video and according to what was mentioned in the video, it would have been thanks to the work of Uka Uka. And by that, I would assume that maybe that meant that Uka Uka's energy must have brought like the dimensions together or something, or he's opened up another rift or something, some sort of crazy shit. I had to imagine it was probably something like that, because they just talked about like and gone through the whole thing with dimension rifts and stuff like that. So I had to imagine that maybe Uka Uka still had like some sort of good energy, or not good energy, but like he must have some sort of power to really make that come afloat. Um, so and there are other things mentioned for this idea where it mentions that hey, there includes like various possibilities of the two being playable at the same time or separately in a multiversal adventure, which is why I mentioned that maybe because of the fact that this is the work of Uka Uka, maybe it would have been a thing where his energy / power must have opened up a rift or brought the two dimensions together to where maybe it was like more of a mixed world type of deal. But the thing, but here are a couple of things, right? Number one, this isn't the first time that Crash Bandicoot has crossed over with Spyro, and this definitely wasn't the first time where they crossed over, but also were in the same game. Because if you guys remember back in the day with the Game Boy Advance games, it was a fucking Crash Bandicoot, Crash Bandicoot purple. Okay, here it is. I think I found it. So it's called Crash Bandicoot Purple Ripple's Rage, and then Spiral's, which was called Spiral Orange the Cortex Conspiracy. So those were the two Game Boy Advance games. Those two were the Game Boy Advance games that everybody knows when it comes to the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro crossover games. I mean, they were decent games. They were pretty good games at the time. As like a 2D side scroller for the Game Boy. But again, this isn't the first time that these two crossed over and worked together to defeat their respective villains. So having that again, but further down the road on like the same kind of setting style as Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, that would have been a treat. So yeah, so basically, they only, like I mentioned before, and this is the second thing I was getting into, they only exist as concept art before it was canceled. So you're not going to see like any gameplays of it. You're not going to see like any pre-existing builds from like an editor's shelf. I think the most that we're ever going to get for this one are, like I mentioned before, the concept arts, which they're on the internet. They're all over the place. So if you guys want to look it up, I'm sure you can find it under as like what Crash Bandicoot 5 art, like concept art, and I'm sure there'll be like something there for you, there. Now, why was this canceled? You guys might be thinking. Well, one of the reasons, I think the main reason for the most part, is because, as it says here, unfortunately, and I'm just paraphrasing here, unfortunately, these only exist as concept art before it was canceled, with Toys for Bob doing support work for Call of Duty and developing the Crash Team Rumble spinoff. Because if you guys remember, there was a whole debacle with Team Rumble, which at the time was called Wumpa League. So they were asked to do support work for Call of Duty, while also at the same time they wanted to carry out this other ambitious idea of having their own mobile-ish game with Wumpa League, which turned out to be Team Rumble. So it's like they couldn't do Crash Bandicoot 5 in good faith if they knew that they couldn't, like I said, if they couldn't do it because of these two things that they got to juggle, right? So obviously the best thing for them to do at that time, because the team wasn't like that big to handle those things or to handle multiple of those projects. Crash Bandicoot 5 was just canceled. It wasn't canceled because of not enough people care. We're not getting enough sales, which is the next thing I'm going to bring up. But it's not that lack of sales or anything like that. It's just that they couldn't handle. They just couldn't handle it. They just couldn't handle it, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. But it was just like it was just too much on their plate. And honestly, I don't blame them. I don't blame them because I'm telling you this right now. If they had like a massive team space, I guarantee you that Crash Bandicoot 5 would have been worked on, and it would have came out. Like I put money on the table. I put money on the table for that. Like I'm willing to put like as much as I can. But also another set of reason too as well, which does lead into the next thing I wanted to mention. One of the reasons as well from the video that the person talked about was the brutal talk of Crash Bandicoot 4 not meeting sales expectations and online live service gains being all of the rage. And like I mentioned before, the game was canceled very early into development to make room for another, as they call it, service me do. So, and obviously a lot of those team members will then move to other projects, which did include Team Rumble and being like the support system for Call of Duty. So, and that's the thing I want to talk about, with the sales expectations, because let's talk about something real quick with that. And I'm gonna botch this person's name because I don't think I pronounced it right at all. But this other person, right? A Toys for Bob developer who is Toby Shadat Shad. Yeah, I fucked that up. I'm sorry, but we're gonna call him Toby. Anyways, Toys for Bob developer Toby S. It wasn't that he said it out loud on like a social media post. People noticed on like his on his job profile on LinkedIn or bleh. I can't pronounce shit right today at all. But basically on that website, if you guys know what I mean by LinkedIn, you know exactly what the fuck I mean. And I'll even mention it in the description or something. But he mentioned under the projects tab, because video game developers, what they like to do is that whatever they're involved in the video game, they obviously mention like, hey, I was a part of this game, and some other important details about like, hey, I was responsible for this, I did this, this was the result. Well, what he put for Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time, which shows here November 2018 to November 2020, which does confirm the fact that they started work, or at least started to get things going, in November 2018, which honestly kind of amazes me. But he says here, and I quote in his job profile, it says here, well-received sequel to Naughty Dog's classic Crash Bandicoot trilogy, over 5 million copies sold, or 5 mm. So here's the weird thing. They've said that Crash Bandicoot 4 only took 2 years to develop, right? It only took 2 years to develop. Being pretty damn polished overall, being able to sell 5 million copies sold. And we also have reportedly exceeding expectations with over 5 million copies sold, according to the studio themselves. And with the fact that we got confirmation from an actual developer that the game sold indeed 5 million copies, over 5 million copies, where do we get this idea? And I'm not blaming the news when I say this, but where do we get the idea that this game didn't meet expectations? Where it's like, yeah, we know that you guys got like 5 million copies for like an actual original new game for the series. And a lot of people were excited for it. There was enough generation buzz. A lot of people played it. They were talking about it all over the place and stuff like that. There was a lot of positive fan reception and all these other things, enough discussion. But yeah, that wasn't enough for us. I personally think when I read that line of Activision when they say not meeting Crash Bandicoot 4 not meeting sales expectations, you know what I think it is, guys? I think it's to me personally, I think it's because of the fact that Crash Bandicoot 5 didn't, or I know I say Crash Bandicoot 5, Crash Bandicoot 4. I think it's because Crash Bandicoot 4 just didn't meet this big, heavy, lofty goal expectations that Activision put for not only themselves, but for the studio and the game to meet. Now, I don't know if this is actually the number. I'm just going to go ahead and take a fat guess. But maybe they were expecting like 20 million plus copies. And I'm like, as much as I would like to see that, you have to be realistic because Crash Bandicoot, and I say this with all respect to the franchise, Crash Bandicoot is not Call of Duty. Crash Bandicoot isn't going to be like your main cash cow. It's going to be one of those cash cows that's going to be very supplemental. That's the whole point. Crash Bandicoot is not your main bread and butter, but that doesn't mean that he can still be very effective and still bring in a lot of sales, a lot of positive reception, and a lot of buzz for your company, which is what you want. So you should be happy, and that's why you should put the minimum expectation, so that way when it goes over it, you know that hey, this franchise is doing a great job under that premise. But because Activision has like this, high risk, high roll mindset, if it's not making the same kind of money and expectations and sales like a Call of Duty game would, then it's like, oh, this other franchise is not really meeting expectations. Which I've said before, but I think that's mentally ill because then you're going to perceive this game to be a failure. You're going to perceive this franchise to be a failure. And that's not fair to the people that have worked on this game. It's not fair to to the whole entire studio, I should say. It's not fair to the video game franchise itself. It's not fair to the fans because you're essentially just selling it short. You're essentially selling it short. And I know I just spoke a few minutes ago or a second ago talking about like, well, they should put like the the sales expectation go down below, meaning like it should, instead of it being like 20 plus, it should be like between like 5 to 10, maybe 15, but between 5 to 10 most especially. I know I mentioned about like lowering their expectations, but I'm not saying that in with any negative connotation. I'm saying basically lower your heavy expectations down, so that way that franchise could give itself a lot more breathing room to meet your expectations there. So that way, when it makes it there and meets your expectations, there's gonna be a lot more positive reception from like the developer or the company to the studio, and the studio is gonna feel that way, and they're gonna feel more inclined to feel a lot better about the work and progression that they put towards this, which means better productivity. People are going to feel good about themselves, which is going to lead to better activity output, which is going to lead to better development, et cetera, et cetera. But because of the fact that they didn't get that, they feel like, yeah, maybe we shouldn't really do this, which is why they've tapped into to be like one of the many support studios for Call of Duty. and that's why they were kind of like bouncing forth between should we do Crash Bandicoot 5 or should we go with the more ambitious idea of Crash Team Rumble. So it's like I think the big villain here was Activision, because this shit is unacceptable. This shit is unacceptable, because I guarantee you Crash Bandicoot 5 would have met the same number as Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time, if not a bit better, which is what you would want. Actually, you would want Crash Bandicoot 5 to meet the same exact sales number as the fourth one, if not a bit better, by like, I don't know, 7 million copies, 9 million, 10. It's like, that's what you would want. But honestly, Toys for Bob did not give like the more respect, consideration, and love and care that studio deserved from a video game company like Activision, which, like I said before, which has the mindset of high risk, high roll. That's basically how I view Activision. Now, with them all under Microsoft, I have a little bit of hope that maybe if Crash Bandicoot 5 does get revisited at some point, which I don't know if it will, we do know for a fact that Toys for Bob is working on a new game, but we don't know if this new game is Crash Bandicoot or the potential Spiral 4, which has been talked about for a while, right? We don't know which one it is. And hey, if Spiral 4 ends up being the thing instead, I'm happy for those guys. I might take a look and I might play the game. But if they ever do revisit Crash Bandicoot 5 whenever they could, I hope they don't throw away those ideas. And honestly, if you want my personal opinion, I think going with the Academy of Evil concept line might actually be a little bit better. And you could then maybe have the Spyro stuff on the side as like a side adventure, or have it happen later on or something. Or you can end up combining both of them. Who knows? But regardless of what I think they should do and which is better, because again, like I said, I may have a preference for the Academy of Evil storyline, because you could do maybe a little bit more, expand on it, and maybe give us the full Crash Bandicoot Twin Sanity game that we never actually got. Which that probably will be a discussion for another day, maybe. So yeah, regardless of what idea or concept they choose for that, because I do trust it to make a very good Crash Bandicoot story, because they understand and love the franchise, and they know how to stick super faithful to the whole point, the whole principles, and the whole everything about the franchise. So regardless of what they choose for that idea, as far as like which story and stuff like that, I do expect that when they have the time and are able to look into it, I guarantee that they'll make the right decision. They'll make the right decision when it comes to that. And I'm not going to really answer the hypothetical question of, oh, what would you do if you're them? It's like, because they kind of have that answer right in front of them. I think it's just a matter of deciding which of the choices they want to do. So I just have a lot of faith in Toys for Bob, because I know for a fact they really do care a lot about Crash Bandicoot, and they've spoke about it numerous times how they understand how much this franchise means to people, how much they themselves love and respect the franchise. So it's like, so they know not to fuck up with this, which is why I have a lot of faith in these guys. Which is why I have a lot of faith into these guys. So yeah, like I said before, I think both ideas of the Academy of Evil storyline, or they go with the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro crossover, I think both of those concepts / ideas sound great. And if they end up choosing one of them or both for Crash Bandicoot 5, and they make it work either way, I would be happy with it, because that means another Crash Bandicoot game for me to die repeatedly over and over again and get frustrated, but still play the game because I love the franchise. But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as the Crash Bandicoot stuff. There's really not that much else more I can say about it. Other than fuck Activision and fuck Ubisoft for the way you treat Rayman, baby. But actually, give me a second. Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. Um, Something fucking came up on my computer, and I had to like make sure I get that off my screen. All right, let's get on to the last topic for the episode. Um, and I hate to fucking bring this up because I really wish I didn't have to, but here we are, right? Um, let's talk about Toy Story 5. And to kind of give at least a little bit of background, so obviously, as it goes without saying, or as it would already show, Toy Story 5 is the fifth film of the Toy Story franchise. It's the sequel after Toy Story 4, and it was announced in February of 2023. Disney CEO Bob Iger announced that the franchise would continue along with other additional films. And when I say other additional films, I'm talking about like other films such as Frozen and Zootopia, because they did announce that Frozen, Toy Story, and Zootopia will be having sequels being developed for them to come out eventually. And then obviously Tim Allen confirms his return to voice as Buzz. And they talked about later in that same month that the film will be, and I quote, be surprising. It would have cool things that you've never seen before. Yeah, I'm very sure of that. And Woody would return in the film, which doesn't really surprise me. Then in April of 2024, which is this year, it was revealed that this film would be released on June 19th of 2026. And recently, within the last few months of June 2024, it was revealed that Andrew Stanton would be directing this film. And just to kind of like give you guys an idea of what other Pixar films that he did, which should be very familiar to you guys. He was the director. He was the director of the original Toy Story, Bug's Life, Toy Story 2. Oh wait, no, I'm sorry. He wasn't the director. I'm sorry. Wow, I'm spreading false information, am I? But okay, let me start from the beginning. Fuck. Let me start this again. He was a writer. Let me just say that he was one of the writers for, because I don't think it was just one writer. But I will just say this just to be safe. He was one of the writers for the first two Toy Story films, including Bug's Life. Although Bug's Life, he was co-director. He had his first directing gig starting with Finding Nemo. So let's actually go down this column correctly this time. So yeah, his first actual directing role was Finding Nemo, then WALL-E, then John Carter, then Finding Dory. So his last film that he directed by that timeline is Finding Dory. Now, if we look at the writing part of it, he one of the many people that wrote Toy Story, Bug's Life, Toy Story 2. He wrote the screenplay for Monsters, Inc. He was also the writer for Finding Nemo. He also wrote for WALL-E. He also wrote, or was one of the people that did the story for Toy Story 3. He did the screenplay as well, in addition to directing it, for John Carter. He was also one of the writers for Finding Dory. He was also one of the writers for Toy Story 4. And then now the next thing he's going to do is both direct and write Toy Story 5. So yeah, those are the films that he respectively directed and also respectively wrote as one of the many. So obviously, I'm not going to talk shit about Andrew Stanton because obviously he's been involved with some really great films on Pixar, and a lot of those films I would say have gained a lot of positive public reception. I think it goes without saying for a lot of them, such as Finding Nemo, such as the first two Toy Story films, Bug's Life, Monsters Inc., WALL-E. Like, nobody can come up here and tell me that those films weren't great. They were fucking goated. They were so good. But my problem with Toy Story 5 is that just like Toy Story 4, they should have. It should have never. It should have never. It should have never existed. It should have never existed. I just don't get why they feel the need that, oh, we ended Toy Story 3 on such a great note. And everybody knows this because when you talk to a lot of people about the ending of Toy Story 3 and when they understand like the impact behind it and when they understand like what it meant, why would you then do one film, let alone two? Why would you do two films right afterwards? Right after that ending that continued that same adventure? Because you do understand that it literally makes the ending and it makes the ending of Toy Story 3 super pointless and the impact is super lessened now, or not lessened, but the impact is more softened. Like it doesn't mean much anymore. The only way it means much is if you just tell yourself that Toy Story 4 and 5 don't exist. That's the only other way that I can maybe see that, oh, well, maybe the impact is still felt. But even then, I wouldn't think that works though, because you still see and know that 4 and 5 exist. So it's like I don't know. I like the fact that I'm even talking about Toy Story 5 right now. It's like, dude, I CBA. It's just like I can't be bothered. But yeah, anyways, let's continue on with more of the information. So so recently, last month at the D23 Expo, it was revealed that the plot would involve the toys finding technology. Ooh, never heard of that idea before. And it would also involve an army of 50 Buzz Lightyear toys controlled by computers. In addition, McKinney Harris would co-direct the film. Now, let's talk about like those two important details, right? They just mentioned right there. That Toy Story 5 sees the beloved toys that we all know and love facing off against technology as they hope to make the lives of children better. So when I say as they hope to make the lives of children better, that's what I mean in terms of like the toys. Like they want to make the lives of children better. That's what I mean. I mean, I'm not against the idea. I'm not against the idea itself personally because it's like we knew that this was going to come eventually, but the way that technology has been rampant in terms of development, in terms of how many things have come out for that, especially with the tablets, especially with the computers, especially with the video game developments, especially with everything, especially TV, especially with the way that we learn. So the idea of like old versus new, it's not a new idea. It's been done before. But for Toy Story, this is like such an ambitious thing. Now, if this was Toy Story 4, I would be a bit more forgiving of the fact that we're doing this idea. But the fact that we're doing this is just now is just just disgusting. Like it's terrible. It's actually terrible. Um, but yeah, so that's ruined the main plot line. I mean, there's really not much more else I can that was said about it because that's all they've already told us. And obviously, of course, you know the 50 Buzz Lightyear the 50 Buzz Lightyear army of toys that are malfunctioned. It's well, I mean, I know it says on the article that it's controlled by computers, but let's just say that they're also malfunctioned because you know obviously it's not the first time that we've seen a fucking Buzz Lightyear malfunction and be a fucking nuthead. Um, but yeah, but I will say that Andrew Stanton specifically Andrew Stanton did specifically say when talked about it, and I can link the article in the description if I need to, or just put it on my Twitter account. But Andrew Sen did reveal specifically that, along with the idea of the army of 50 Buzz Lightyear toys, he did say that, and I quote, "are controlled by computers that will make things miserable for everyone." Um, so so they have to go up against the they have to go up against the fact that kids are using more of the technology, which means like tablets and shit, which means it's their playtime with the children is being taken away, and they feel obviously threatened by that. Um, and then on top of that, you got like 50 fucking Buzz Lightyears on crack, just ruining your life. So it's like it's like a def. I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's not an interesting film idea, because it is. I just hate the fact, like I said, that we've gotten to the point where this is even like a thing. Like the fact that we're getting that Toy Story 5, and maybe I'm just being like super nostalgic, but this should have been the fourth film if this is what this really was. Um, like this should have been the fourth film. Like, yes, you can still do like the whole Bo Peep thing and then get away from Woody still like leaves the gang afterwards and stuff like that. Like this could have been like the grand glorious adventure in the fourth film, and I think the fourth film could have then just been like the actual conclusion, with the third one maybe just concluding the Andy portion of it. And maybe that's what this is, guys. Maybe that's what this is. This is maybe the first three films were just dedicated to the Andy story arc, and then right after that's over, 4, 5, 6, and God knows how long they're going to be doing this franchise. Maybe that is like its own. Maybe that's like its own story arc, its own storyline. So maybe this is something like new. And speaking of Woody, that's one of the things I actually do want to talk about when we see the concept art that we just saw on my nice, beautiful TV screen. Is that, why is he there? How did he get there? Because the whole point of the Toy Story 4 ending, for those that have seen it, you would know that he left the gang to go be with Bo Peep, to be a free toy. And he's still there at the carnival with her. So how does Woody like get back, get involved into the swing of things? Like, does he leave Bo Peep again? Does he hear about it and then feels bad and feels compelled to help him out? And if so, how did he hear about it? It's like, how is that happening? I'm sure more of those details will be presented, but unless there's like an actual good, legitimate reason why he's even back, how he even got back there in the first place, back into Bonnie's room, because we all assume that's who the kid is. It is fucking Bonnie. I mean, who else could it be? But so unless there is a good story reason why he ends up back in that room, I'm kind of just left confused as to why he's even there in the first place. And also, where is Bo Peep? Like, were they just like, yeah, let's not put her in the concept art? I feel like she should be involved in the concept art. Like, that would make sense. And I would, and a lot more questions about like, oh, where's, why is he back there and stuff like that. I feel like you would get a lot less of those questions. You know what I mean? It's like you'll get a lot less of those questions. But here we are, right? Here we are. I would like to think that he just got informed about it. He told Bo Peep, "Look, I gotta help my guys out." And then he goes on an adventure, gets there, sees what's going on, and then just goes from there. But I feel like Bo Peep should also go along with him, because it's like, damn, you left me again. Let's not let's not have that happen again. So yeah, there's a lot of questions that you can say about this film in terms of like, obviously, what would the outcome be? What's like the actual villain? Unless the 50 toys of Buzz Lightyear going ape shit based on being controlled by technology, unless they're like the only primary villains. Although I do get the implication that the whole idea of technology, I do get the whole idea of technology being like this thing that takes away from the time of playtime from the toys. Maybe that whole thing is kind of like the villain of it all, at least in the perspective of the toys. But honestly, who knows? Obviously, there's gonna be a lot more details that get revealed as time goes on. I imagine that there will be a lot more details next year because it's Final 25. You have to like reveal a bit more about it. Obviously, at some point next year, even by this time, maybe we'll get like a trailer. We'll, like I said, get more details. A lot more things will be, like I said, a bit more clear, and maybe then we'll figure out, you know, like I said, what's going on with the actual plot. What is the direction that they're going with this, and how do they go on about it? And I hope it goes well, because I'm telling you, because unless you can actually make Toy Story 5 legitimately worth it to make, because apparently the whole idea of what's lessen the impact in the blood and the yeah what's lessen the impact of Toy Story 3's ending, that goal was already fucking accomplished just by making the fourth film, and you're certainly putting that to bed a lot more by making this fifth film. So that's already done. But I still want to see the fifth film actually have some sort of actual impact, some sort of meaning. Because if you're just going to make this fifth film and then we all go to see it, and then we come out of it thinking, wow, this could have just been a short film. If that's what people are going to say in like 2 years or whenever this comes out in 2026, like, what is it, June 29th, 2026? Let me see. Let me see. I know I just saw it. Oh no, not 29th. I'm sorry. It's June 19th. I had the right 9, just the wrong first number. So instead of 29, I meant 29. I meant 19. But anyways, if people come out of watching this film by then, and one of the first few things that they say is, "Wow, this could have been like a short film or something, or this could have just been something else," that's when you know that's when you know that the film fails. And it once again proves the point that this shouldn't be a film. It should have just been done right after Toy Story 3 or Toy Story 4, let alone 3 for fuck's sakes, or after 3. Um, but yeah, like I said, even though I am a hater of the fact that there is a Toy Story 4 and a 5, I still want to see what they end up doing with the fifth film, and maybe I might be a little bit more forgiving if they somehow make this worth it. But you have to be really convincing with the plot details, or yeah, you have to be very convincing with the plot. You have to be convincing with the story. You have to make the character development make sense with the whole progression of like the prior films, because that's where they get their experience from, and also with the objective of the story, and just making everything smoothless, or smoothing, I should say. Make it more smoothing, make it more seamless, make it more easy of a transition, right? Um, so do I think they'll do it? I mean, I hope so, because because the thing that you can say about Pixar films, a lot of them, is that the story is usually pretty damn good, and it usually kind of has like moments of impact when it comes to emotions, and they really know how to garner like a strong oh, sorry. They know how to garner a certain reception of the audience to gain like an impactful reaction. So they've done it before in a way with Toy Story 4, with the way that they ended it by separating Woody from the gang, Buzz and the gang. So if they can do that if they did it with the fourth film, and like I just said, they've had like various impactful moments throughout the film that really gain like a strong audience reaction, and they know how to make like these convincing storylines and these characters that really resonate with people, and they have like a strong impact of reception. If they basically, what I'm saying is, if Pixar does what Pixar usually does, which is very good things, maybe Toy Story 5 will be a underrated banger in terms of the story. I still think the existence is still a weird thing to have, because I feel like it shouldn't be a thing, like I said also along before. But like I said, I will also be willing to eat crow if this somehow ends up being worth it. But will it be? Who knows? Who the fuck knows? Um But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as like the main topics. But before we do leave, there are some viewer questions I do want to answer, and these were viewer questions that I should have answered on a old episode a while back ago from like last year. So I am very sorry to the few people that did send in the questions back at September 9th. Well, the first question came in on August 30th that I have right here in my Discord. August 30th of 2023. And then the second one came in at September 9th, 2023. That actually has multiple questions into one, but hey, that's fine. So I apologize to those two in particular, and you know who you are when you look this up. But yeah, thank you to those two answering the question. Actually, no, I'll just go ahead and say it. It doesn't matter. Thank you, Kuro Blitz and Squishy, for the questions I'm about to answer. So we'll go ahead and answer these questions and then get out of here for today. All right, first part of the 4 questions is this first one. What's the one thing that intrigues your fascination for a story? I would say the thing that fascinates me about the thing that intrigues me the most, or the thing that intrigues my fascination for a story, is that it's all about the structure. I'm always fascinated by the structure of a story, because to me, in my opinion, if you have like a good structure for your story, then everything else is going to come into play pretty smoothly. It's like it's a pretty easy analogy, or fucking brain fart. It's a pretty easy analogy to make, right? It's like basically when you build a house, you want to make sure that the sound is structured. You want to make sure that you have a good foundation in place. Then you build the structure, you put everything together, and then after the end result, once you put in like the paint, once you put in the wood, once you put in like the furniture, once you put in everything, then everything's gonna look great. That's the same thing. That's the same thing when you make the story. It's like, first of all, you have to write the story. Then once you write the story, then you can put like these various pieces together. Like, for example, you put the characters, which comes along with character development. You put in the scenes, and by the scenes, I mean like you start making like moments that happen within the film. You see how they all connect with each other, which helps make the story transitions, which is why I just said like a second ago. It's all about the transitions. You put in the music, because whatever you see on screen, the music has to complement that, so it makes you feel more embraced into that environment. And sometimes, at times, you'll feel like the impact of the scene. And obviously, when you put everything together, that will be the completed film. So to answer your question, the thing that intrigues my fascination of a story is just really the structure. And maybe that's just such a basic answer. But to me, I think that's one of the most important things, if not the most important thing. It's just the structure, and just about like what you put into it. Like how do people put together like the bricks for a story? How do people put the bricks for character development? How do you put the bricks for the plot points? How do you put the bricks together for transitioning from like the beginning to the middle point of your story, and how you transition from the middle point of your story all the way to the end, to your conclusion? How do you put together like the music that goes with what's going on screen? So that's really what I'm fascinated by. I mean, I know music may not necessarily be part of the story in terms of maybe what this question is implying, but I'm throwing it in there because obviously we're talking about films, right? We're talking about video games. Music is involved in those things. So that's what I would say to that. That's what I would say for that. Here's the second question of the 4. What would be your area of expertise if you were to make a video game? I think I would probably just work on like video game stories / music, because I always have like I always have like a fascination for story points, because with a good story, and like I said before in the last question, with a good structure, it kind of gives you an idea of how much you can work with within that video game's universe. it's like if your structure allows for other not viewpoints, but if your structure allows for other ideas to come into play, then it expands your creativity. You could do a lot more and not feel constricted within like a tight space, right? Um, so you are able to like develop a lot more plot points. You're able to develop these other things. Like maybe, for example, you might be able to develop story point A to point C with a very smooth line. Or maybe, for example, the main character could do this instead of like the generic route because your structure allows for more creativity. Just as long as you can make that creativity point work for what your whole story is all about. Because as much creativity that you might have, it's all about can it still work within the premises and the grounds that you have. Which is why I feel like it's also just as important to be able to expand and add more space to the grounds of your story. So that way, like I said, you could do a lot more, right? You could do a lot more. It gives you more tools, more range, and as long as you make it work, which I think you can do as long as you're smart about it and you have the dedication for it and the willpower, as long as you make it relatable and it makes sense towards what you're building for a story, you could do a lot of things within the world of creativity. So I would say story writing would be like one of my main areas of expertise for a video game. But also just to throw in another one, I would say music as well because I do believe that music should be able to complement very well with what's on screen. Like for example, like if there's like a sad, somber scene going on, like if it's like super depressing stuff like that, you want the music to complement what's on screen because you want the audience to feel the impact of what they're watching. You want them to feel more. I can't think of the word, but you want them to feel like they're connected with what's going on. So you want them to feel more emotionally attached. And same thing, like, there's like a very happy scene going on. Like, for example, like a hero beats the villain. You want the music to really coincide with what's on screen and really have the music very much so complement the things that we're seeing on screen and the objective that was just accomplished. So I would say story writing and music composing for a video game would be my main area of expertise. Expertises, I guess, if that's even a word. Here's the third out of the fourth question. What passion project would you make if there were no limitations? I think this is a pretty easy one to make because it's already one that exists and I have yet to release it, which by the way, I'm not going to promise anything because at this point I've said so many promises for it that I just feel like making another one will just do me no good. Just know that the project is still going to come out. I just need to get myself more motivation to fix it. But a passion project that I would say for this question that I would like to make or continue making if there are no limitations is Pikachu's Unlucky Week. And by that I mean like because Pikachu's Unlucky Week, because you guys have already seen like the preview from before, like from a while ago. Pikachu's Unlucky Week is basically like a slideshow, meaning like you see one thing on one scene that's already been done in terms of making the art or just the voice line or whatever, and then the next screenshot or slideshow scene, it shows like something else completely different, but you don't see like the animation for it. You just see like the before and after. Basically, it's like, oh, for example, scene A shows Pikachu smiling with a hat on, and then scene 2 shows Pikachu already in the air, which means that he jumped, ready to thunderbolt at you, while still wearing the hat. But we don't see like the middle of how he got there. Like we don't see the animation of Pikachu jumping into the air and doing that. So if I had no limitations for my passion project project, the Pikachu's Unlucky Week, I would like to do obviously animation, fluid animation for obviously interactive eyes, interactive mouths. You know, like whenever the character is talking on screen, so you know that character is talking. Being able to have like stuff in the background that's not like static, just being able to have things that are like interactive, that allow for more engagement with the audience. And when you add, like I said, more fluid animation and allow more interactiveness in terms of the character expressions, like I said before about like being able to have more creativity within your story, as long as you know what to do with it, you could do a lot more within those simple scenes. So I would say that would be the passion project, which is Pikachu's Unlucky Week, that I would like to continue doing with no limitations. I would just put more emphasis on animation. I would just like to do more fluid backgrounds with better animations in the back, just so like it could be interactive with the audience or just complement the scene. Like for example, maybe if it's just simply two figures walking together or something like that, I would like to, you know, do more animations with that. So yeah, that's my answer for the first one. And then here's the last question out of the four, which says, what's your take on constructive criticism being seen as complaining? Well, the way I look at it is that first of all, constructive criticism is one of the great things of society, because constructive criticism to me is like super valuable feedback, because you're able to look at it, and I'm not sure if the question is being asked in terms of like this and in terms of a different perspective of it, but I'm just going to answer it. I'm just going to give the answer to that question in a general sense, and then you can do what you want with it. But in general, right? Constructive criticism, like I said, is one of the greatest things that's in society, in my opinion, because, like I said before, it's super valuable information that's being given to you to basically give you an idea from a different perspective on what you could do better in terms of what you're doing for your project, what you're doing for anything else. It really, like, you know, like whenever you're doing an assignment for school, or whenever you're doing something for your job, or for whenever people want to give you like constructive feedback as to, or constructive criticism for who you are as a person. Now, when it comes to the idea of constructive criticism being seen as complaining, I think that's, to me, and I could be wrong about this, maybe I'm just looking at this wrong, but to me, if your constructive criticism is being seen as complaining, obviously, of course, that depends on the perspective of that person. But if you're using constructive criticism to, as an avenue just to be like a whiny bitch about it, and just be like super immature, and just like using that as an excuse to be ignorant, then yeah, I can see why people would then sometimes see constructive criticism being seen as complaining. But I'm not blaming constructive criticism for that, because that's not the whole point of constructive criticism, because at that point that's not because you're not doing constructive criticism a favor. Like it's just like, because let me tell you guys like the benefits of constructive criticism, right? Like here are like some key points, right? It really increases productivity, because like I said before, you get like direct feedback as to what you can improve on, while also criticizing you for the fact that you even got to that point. It's just all about how you carry out that constructive criticism, because if you carry out in a way where it comes off as non-genuine, and it also comes off as you more so complaining than it is actually giving like productive criticism, then that's on the person. That's not on the idea of constructive criticism. It's really not. It's really not. Because like I said before, I think constructive criticism is one of the best things that society has. But I think the problem is that people use it the wrong way at times. And it makes the whole idea feel more diminished, which isn't fair, because like I said, it's one of the greatest things that we have for society. It really does. Um, and the thing is that when you get constructive criticism for the things that you do, and if if it's actually presented as actual, actual criticism that's constructive and turns out to be productive, and the person means well and they are genuine and they're not just being a fucking jerk, you know what that encourages? That encourages that encourages good development, and it encourages you to learn, this continuous learning that you can do better based on what you've seen of yourself doing it, and from also those that care about you and want you to succeed, that are also willing to be constructive to you about the criticism as to what you're doing. It encourages learning and development, and in a way, it fosters like a supportive environment, because you know that you're going to get like very good criticism that is productive, and it's rather constructive in terms of how it's being said from those that you adore, like your friends, your family, your coworkers. And in a way, it's going to strengthen your relationship with that person or persons or group of people, I should say. It strengthens the relationship, because you're going to feel more inclined to go to really take them seriously, because you know that they mean well. You know that they mean well with what they say in terms of their criticism that's constructive. Um, and your whole process of decision making gets improved, because as I mentioned many times, when you get like these constructive feedbacks, you're thinking, okay, this is what I should do for next time. This is how I should approach it. So your decision making in the long run is going to it's going to be a lot better. Like that process is going to be a lot more smoother. So, so again, just to go back to the question of, because I know I kind of just, was yapping there for a little bit. The whole take on constructive criticism being seen as complaining, it's really not. I think it just depends on how that person delivers that constructive criticism. Because anybody that is able to actually understand the whole point of constructive criticism, and they see that somebody else is claiming that, oh, I'm just giving constructive criticism, but then when you actually look at it, right? When you actually look at it and you see that it's really not constructive criticism, then they should be called out for it. Now, in my opinion, it shouldn't be called out every single time, because if that were the case, I'd be here forever. But if you can clearly see and tell, because if you actually understand the whole idea of constructive criticism, because I'm not saying, oh, just look up like a 5-second Google search and then all of a sudden you're the expert. No, if you actually understand, constructive criticism, and you actually see other people claiming that they're doing exactly that, constructive criticism, when they're actually not, and they just come out as a complaining, whiny bitch, that's on that person for not actually understanding the whole fucking point of constructive criticism. That's just it. That's just it. Anyway, so here's the last question from Squishy. And this was back in 2023, so I have to keep in mind of like the fact that, oh, we're not talking about game of the years for 2023. We're talking about this for 2024, right? Let me actually look up best games of the year so far. This might be a terrible list, but whatever. Give me a second, guys. All right, here we go. All right, here we go. Whatever. Okay. So Squishy's question was, what do you think is a good contender for the game of the year, and why? Well, first of all, there's a lot of good contenders for game of the year, specifically for 2024. Like for example, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. That's a game that's been kind of like getting a lot of popularity, because it's a redone or redux or whatever the fuck it is, but it's still called Final Fantasy VII, so it's implied that it's just the same game but just done differently or whatever. But anyways, that's besides the point. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth's been getting like a lot of talk, a lot of popularity. People love the game. They like to play it. There's like a lot of things behind it. Um, so I would say that's a good contender. I'll give out multiple good contenders here because you can't really just settle with one nowadays. You really can't. I'm gonna seem like you're a fucking fanboy of the game, but I guess you can always stick with one. Um, but there's like some other good contenders, such as Black Myth Wukong. That's like one of the latest games that's come out that a lot of streamers and a lot of people have been talking about because it's something that they're all into and intrigued by. So Black Myth Wukong. I would say for a good chunk of earlier this year, Helldivers 2 was definitely up there. I don't know if it's necessarily the same now, and I don't think they're going to end up winning this game of the year, but I would be pretty happy for those developers if they did, because I still do think the game is very fun to play. So Helldivers 2. Um, Stellar Blade at some point, I feel like it was a good contender. There's also Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree. I think that's the DLC, right, guys? I think that's the DLC. Uh, yeah, I think it's DLC. I don't know, but regardless, Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erd Tree. That's also one of the game contenders for this year that you can say. Vendors One, and I know this hasn't come out yet, so I don't know if this will necessarily count, but it does come out this year, way before the Game Awards, so it could technically still be announced as Game of the Year if it technically. But I would say if it comes out with very great reception and there's like a lot of people that play consistently, but I would say, and this is actually my underrated pick, but I would say Astrobot for the PlayStation. That's a very underrated game candidate. Very underrated. That can happen. Mainly because it's a beautiful looking 3D platformer that's all over the place. It's one of Sony's best first party studio games. The adventure is super thrilling based on what I've seen from the trailer and images. It feels, from what people have said, for those that played it, from like play testing and from what they've seen and the demos at like the conventions and shit. They say that there's like a strong platforming core. There's outstanding use of the DualSense controller for the PlayStation, and it feels a lot of fun to play consistently. So I would say if Astrobot can really hold on to that throughout the rest of this year up until the Game Awards, who's to say that maybe they can't sneak in and take the award? Who's to say that they couldn't do it? And then there's like, let me think. Let's put out some other candidates and then get out here for today. But Hades 2, that could be like an underrated candidate. Maybe just for a family friendly game, just to throw that in there. That isn't, in case if there wasn't one already. But maybe Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, that could be a part of it. Maybe Persona 3 Reload for like the anime-esque game / fans. Um, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot more games that could be set for Game of the Year contenders. But the ones I just listed are like ones that I personally like, but also some of the well, not all of them, because I'm not like a Persona fan, not because I don't like it, but it's just I haven't played those games. But there are like some games I mentioned there where I haven't played, but I do think it's well within fair reason to mention them based on their popularity, and based on the reception from the audience. So I would say that those games have like a very good chance each to go grab Game of the Year for this year. So I think it's well within good reason for me to state those games based on my observations and just based on my observations and just like how I feel about each of them. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's episode. Thank you guys again so much for watching all the way through for today's episode. And as always, guys, my social medias are as follows. My Twitter, the content Twitter account is rfardude97, which is the same user as my YouTube. So in case you forget, just remember that it's the same user as my YouTube. So in case you go on Twitter and you're thinking, what is that guy's YouTuber name? I forgot. It's the same name. So Twitter, rfardude97. rfardude, God damn it, rfardude97 on Twitch. also rfrdude97 on Facebook. For those of you that still have a Facebook, where on both my Facebook and Twitter account, I will give updates about when I go live, when I don't go live, when I upload these videos, or when I do basically anything that's content related and just updates and etc. That's when you'll get those up, or that's where you'll get those updates. On my YouTube channel, that's where I will upload most of that content that isn't like a stream. And then on Twitch, goes without saying, but that's my my main streaming platform in case I want to stream a game and just have fun with you guys in chat. So, but yeah, I will be releasing another Richie spots here soon as well, because I do want to give like my thoughts about like the Chargers as well, because I do have like a thumbnail for the episode. I just haven't recorded the fucking episode because I've just been like super busy for like the last several months or so in terms of getting that episode out there, because the script is already done, but I just haven't done anything with it. Well, actually, I did actually recently update it a lot, because obviously I made the script around like the early part of this year when they hired Jim Harbaugh, but because of like a lot of things that changed, like for example, free agency, the draft, training camp, preseason, and now that we're basically as of today on September 5th of 2024, today is when the NFL season officially kicks off. So I have to go ahead and re-edit the entire script to now talk about like the expectations for the season, how I feel, what will happen and stuff like that, and just give off like a different kind of stat prediction, if you will. So I will try to get that out before Sunday, but if not, then I will make sure to like, get that out at some point within the first few weeks of the season. So, with proper edits, of course. But yeah, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting out of here again, just to let everybody know. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like the video, comment on the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this one. Don't forget, again, I also stream on Twitch, rfrdude97, and then rfrdude97 on other major platforms such as Twitter, my personal public Twitter account, which is Richie _Farley 1. 1 as in like the number 1. So yeah, that's my personal public Twitter page. Richie _Farley, or Richie _Farley 1. So that's my personal public Twitter. And then, like I said, for the universal name, it's rfrdude97 on Twitch, YouTube, my Twitter content account, and Facebook. So you'll be able to find me on 4 different platforms. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys again so much for watching. Appreciate it a lot. And I'll see you guys next time on the next stream, next video. And as always, as TSS always says, wash your motherfucking hands. And I'll see you guys next time.